Sorry, we had a call, so we're starting up with our break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. started again. Okay, objective 4, we're going to talk briefly about how to carry tools safely on the fire ground. I think that this is a good review for us, as most of us have done this for a while. After reviewing this before this class, most of us don't carry tools like this anymore. So, remember, when you carry a pickaxe, you're supposed to carry the blade into your armpit and cover the pike to keep it from stabbing people or breaking things. When you carry the married set, again, carry it combined together, hopefully with a strap. Now ours do marry together pretty well, you don't always have to have a strap. But keep the spike away from you. And when carrying a pike pole, keep the point down. Striking tools, we keep the head down low. We don't swing it back and forth. And when carrying power tools, we carry them again, just like scissors, away from us. So if we fall, we don't hurt ourselves or skewer somebody. So, how should the following tools be carried? How are we going to carry a pighead axe?
Cover the pike in your armpit.
Cover the pike in your armpit. Now, are we good at practicing that skill? Has anybody ever seen somebody? No.
Never.
We don't put them up on our shoulders. We don't throw tools to each other. And remember, if you can't safely carry a tool up a ladder, use a rope. How are we carrying our prying tools?
Two hands.
Two hands, keeping the pike away from us. Again, you fall on the adze, it's going to hurt. You fall on the pike, it's going to really hurt. Our striking tools, we're going to keep the weight down low. Our power tools, we're going to keep the blades away from us in a safe position. Okay, this is where we get kind of into the actual physical act of forcing the door and forcing several other kinds of doors. We're going to describe the methods of forcing entry through doors. We talked about it before the break. Again, we have almost a force continuum of using a key to open the door, being the minimum amount of damage possible, all the way to making a hole through a wall, breaching very extreme situations. But try to use the minimum amount of force necessary to get inside, keeping in mind how rapidly we may need to get inside. If you have somebody who is not breathing on the other side of the door, do we really care how we get in? No, we want to demolish and get inside quickly. If we have a non-injury fall patient who just can't get to the door, that's when we're going to take our time. Go through the lock, maybe, do some other things like that. Try to open the door in a normal fashion. Try before you pry. Try to find a key. Look around. People aren't necessarily the most creative when it comes to hiding keys. Even if they have a key box is cheaper to smack the front off of. Those little ones I'm talking about like that, they're about $35 at Lowe's versus destroying a door. Just hope the key's inside when you do. Look for a window, a secondary way to get in. You'd be surprised how often when you go looking at a house, how many times you can find a window that's unlocked. Pull the screen, try not to damage it, lift the window up and you're in and you cause very little damage. And more importantly, we can re-secure the house when we leave. So if it is a little lady or old gentleman that lives by themselves, their house is secured and they don't have to worry at night. And then determine which method may be quicker. If somebody's not breathing and it's not a fire, maybe we take a window and go crawling through quick. Sometimes you can break a window a little bit faster than you can force a door. Look at what door it is. Do they have a pretty heavy-duty door at the front with multiple locks on it? And they have a door on the side with just a handle? Maybe we go for that one. Rapid entry lockbox systems. Again, in our area, we have Knox boxes. There are some residential Knox boxes, as we've talked about. A lot of times, though, in the residences, we'll see the little combination things besides the door, or more commonly, I would say, a garage code. They're usually put in high visibility locations. We do have some in our area, though, that they were kind of paranoid about. There's a doctor's office or dentist office over in Southwest. You have to use a ladder to get to it. Does anybody know any other ones like that?
Well, there's one on High Street, but we just kind of use someone's knee and someone step up to get to it.
Yeah.
Not
So
necessarily a ladder, but
So more commonly now they're put in invisible areas, but the original first few Knox boxes we got, I've seen some of those be in some kind of inconvenient locations.
There's an apartment complex, I believe, where like, it's like under the deck, like.
Yeah, it's over on the
Central
windows.
Bank down on the motor bank.
Where's there's that?
You gotta go down the steps to like the basement, and you almost gotta have the attic ladder or something, because it's up, if I remember right, it's up pretty high.
Yeah. Now we try to get them to put them easy to find places and also to put the stickers on. It's funny how many times you see the Knox box sticker that would be supposed to go on the glass or the door on the Knox box, like we didn't already know that that was a Knox box. And then hopefully when you guys are doing your inspections, open those up, make sure the keys actually function. I'd say about 10% of the time we find that the keys that are in there are almost of no use because people set them and forget them and we're not catching it on our inspections. So door control, we're going to talk about this. This has to do with when you're forcing a door during a fire. It is critical to control the door when you force it in fire conditions. Can anybody think of why we would want to control that door?
Oxygen.
Oxygen, okay? We want to control the amount of oxygen that comes in. We don't want to feed that fire. We also need to stay out of the way some. When you force a door, control it, get back and get off to the side in case there is a backdraft, especially if we get that really dark, yucky smoke that can say that the fire's been started for a long time. Us forcing the door may be the first bit of oxygen that fire gets and it hasn't had it in a while, and it could be bad for a little bit. Remember, the ventilation profile can change quickly, especially if we have a pretty good strong breeze coming at our back, or again, maybe that fire was looking for air and now we're going to have a pretty good exit flow coming at us. If you have a larger amount of smoke coming at you, that fire is coming behind that smoke. It is going to be coming towards you. Make sure to take steps to deal with fire behavior changes if the door is damaged and cannot close. Now, we don't have smoke curtains like some places do, but you know, again, even if you accidentally take the door and it totally comes off the hinges, you may be able to stick that door back up and choke it off until the fire crew or attack team is ready to go in. We are limited on personnel, but maybe if you have a RIT team that's standing by at the door, maybe if while you go inside, they can monitor that door, help keep it closed some, also give you a good resource if you do need somebody to show you where the door is, to put a flashlight at the door, or call out, something like that. Only prop doors open if closing the door would block egress. Okay, so ideally we close it most of the way. Obviously we can't get our hoses through, but don't prop the door open if it's going to block the egress. Don't block it open unless it's going to block the egress. We're going to talk about some locks, mortise locks, cylindrical locks, rim locks, and high security locks. Mortise locks. So we see these on a lot of older houses. The entire lock and door handle are one giant block that sits inside the door. We do have some older houses here that still have these. They're kind of neat. Some of the houses that we've torn down lately or got to go in had these in there. The other place I feel like you see these is, I feel like I see these a lot in some of the wooden doors that the state has, okay? The newer ones will have the deadbolt that's built into it. Some of the older ones just had the latch. They're fairly easy to force. If you go to some of the higher end classes, they're also fairly easy to pull the locks on, especially the older ones. They weren't very complicated. A lot of times if you can get them open, you can work the mechanism by pulling the block if you need to. Other than that, we're going to attack these just like we would a residential door. You're going to try to see if you can get the latch to come around the door frame. Cylindrical lock, the key and knob. So this is what we commonly see in residential houses. If they don't have that and they just have a deadbolt, it's usually pretty easy to force. And sometimes we can do it without doing too much damage, because all we're trying to do is slip the little latch out enough that we can get it to come out. And sometimes you can even do this pretty quickly, gap it a little bit, maybe get your shove knife in and just pop it back out. Deadbolts are normally located above the latch and door handle. Most of the time you're going to see on the inside, it's a thumb turn. Sometimes you'll come across some that are keyed on both sides. That can cause us problems if for some reason you do decide to take a window and reach in and turn that, if it did have the key, because my mom has that at her house. She doesn't keep the key in the door, she keeps it on the other side of the house. So remember, just because you take a window doesn't mean you're going to necessarily get in that door. It's not always the best choice to take a window. The easiest way to breach modern deadbolts in a wood residential door is to force the door itself. We know that that door, if most residential doors are not solid metal, they're usually metal jacketed, and we can deform those a little bit, and usually just get the latch to pull out and not damage the frame or do minimal damage to the frame. Rim locks are called rim locks because they're actually on the rim of the door. We have all of these in Jeff. The older houses and the older style is considered the night latch. The latch stays out all the time. It's got a little bevel to it, and when it closes, it latches itself every time. The way to keep it from doing that is you turn it back, you flip a switch, and then it won't lock. These can cause you problems in a fire. You go through one, and it shuts, it locks, it's up high, it's not the normal door. Usually they're located about head level. Just watch for them. Deadbolt is slightly more modern. It is an entire block that flips over. Both of those cross part of the door frame. The vertical deadbolt, so those are a little bit harder for us to attack because they're protected more. You can't slip it past the door frame. You're going to actually have to physically destroy it and knock it off a wall, either by prying or by blows from the hammer. We do have these. They're not as common, but we do have them in our area. High security locks. I think we're all used to these. We'll start with the high security door. It has multiple bolts that extend into all corners. What are we going to do if we come across a door like this? Something that's really heavily fortified.
Find a different way.
Probably try to find a different way. We're not going to be able to force this with our usual tools. We usually use what? I wish we usually use a saw. We usually use, yeah.
Yeah, the Halligan.
We usually use the Halligan, the married set. We're not gonna be able to do this. And if we do force our way, we're gonna spend a lot of time. Chances are, if you got a really heavy duty door that's really hard to get through, find a different door. Electronic keyless locks. In some of the modern facilities we deal with, sometimes these are tied to the alarm system. If the alarm system's going off, they unlock. Some of the older ones are independent, and so they're battery backed up. They don't shut off with the fire alarm, and they can cause us a little bit of problems. Sometimes they still have keys on them, not always. Sometimes we get in the Knox box, there's a pin. Again, not always. Good news is, most of them on a wood door like that you can take with the married set. The electromagnetic locks. Something to note is these can fail open or fail close. Generally speaking, they fail open because they don't want to lock people in. But in some really high security places, like the state health laboratory or something like that, they do not fail open, they fail close because they don't want somebody to come set the fire alarm off and use that as a way to get in. So since we're in the state capitol, don't always count on it failing open. Locking devices. Drop bar. Are drop bars allowed in our fire code in Jeff and commercial properties? Have you ever seen a drop bar or somebody do something like that? Yes, we see this all the time. You will see this all the time, especially if it's a business that gets broken into a lot, because guess what? They don't care what our fire code is. They're going to do that because they're tired of getting broken into. The good news is drop bars, for the most part, are pretty easy to defeat once you realize they're there. After you defeat the primary locks, you try to open it and it catches. What are some ways we can overcome drop bars? Stick something in between, knock it off. That's one of the easiest ways. Recognizing that it's there is another important feature. What is something looking from the outside of a door that may indicate that there are drop bars behind it? Bolts. 3 and 3
on that picture.
Has anybody here ever tried using a Halligan to knock the bolts through? It's pretty effective, especially on those metal doors. You can just drive those bolts through. If, let's say they slide it through, you can't lift it over, you can't figure out where it is, what's something else we can do that's guaranteed to get us through a drop bar? Cut it, saw. Take a saw, gap your door, cut through it. A door limiter. So these aren't high security. Again, this would concern us mostly in like a fall or a sick patient where we're trying to get in. Those screws, especially the ones in the door, are not deep set. So if you get to the point where you've got that open, a good smack with an axe will usually take those screws off. If you do go through one of the more advanced level, like respectful entry classes, yeah, rubber banded a piece of tape. You will never feel secure again in a hotel room after going through one of those. Same thing with the door and chain. It's to make you feel better. Those chains bust pretty easy. A good solid smack of the door and they'll come open. Surface bolt, same thing. The door limiter and the door chain, they're designed to allow you to open it and be able to speak some to somebody on the outside. Surface bolt, we won't know it's there. Again, that's one of those times where sometimes if you're gonna force a door and you can't figure out, if you go ahead and soften the door, you can see where it gaps when you strike the door. If it's solid up here and solid here, but loose down here, that may indicate to me that I have 2 locks I have to defeat. So after I finish doing my normal, I may have to come up and work again at a higher level to get through. Internally mounted bolt, you see these on double doors. Okay, so usually you defeat one side, you can reach in, unlock the others, and they'll open. They run vertical, so just, know that's where you're gonna have to attack the door if for some reason you have to open those. Most of the time, they're not really a problem for us. So what are some types of locks and locking devices that we as firefighters are likely to encounter?
Deadbolt.
Deadbolt. Everybody's house has a deadbolt, okay? What else? Drop bars. As much as we don't want to be drop bars in our area because of fire code, we have drop bars. We went to Hy-Vee 3 weeks ago and they had chains on the front doors. Okay, you're gonna have to be creative on that one. You're gonna have to try to get the door open enough to get the bolt cutters in. So, when we are out doing inspections, whenever you're out, look around, just pay attention. See what you have in your area. It's one of the things that, I know it's great that we do the same inspections each year, but I feel like, man, maybe after so many years we should change inspection territories because I know the places I inspect really, really well. The places I don't inspect, I'm like, I don't know. That's also though why when you're out doing inspections, if you come across something, you're like, man, everybody needs to know about this, send an email to everybody. Cap Vaught and I went to a dentist office that has a pit-style basement that I'm pretty sure by building code, they should have been able to build it. This is a new enough building. And it is, it just looks like a death trap. You walk in here like, yeah, somebody's gonna die in this if this place is on fire. So we send it out to everybody.
You can't see it from the outside.
And you cannot tell it has a basement. There is no way of telling this place has a basement. So we talked about coordinating forcible entry and door control. Again, it creates a ventilation point. We're gonna have air going in. This is an example of somebody helping feed the hose through while controlling that. Make sure you coordinate your forcible entry. You want that person at the door with the hose ready to go. If there's fire behind that door, you want that hose filled, ready to go, flowed. Make sure you got water, because you don't know when you open that door how much fire load you're gonna have. The time between forcing entry and fire attack in search and rescue can allow fire to enter, or get oxygen and grow, okay? This needs to be a rapid set of events. We're pretty good about that here. And again, if you have extra personnel, which we don't normally, have somebody stay at that door and monitor the door and control the flow path. And don't open that door unless you need to, okay? Keep it closed as much as possible. We want to contain these fires, starve them of oxygen. So breaking the glass of the door is fairly controversial anymore. We were just talking in the last slide about how important it is to control ventilation, but when we break glass, we lose that ability. The other thing to remember is on some of these big commercial doors that have the little cylinder locks that you can take a screwdriver and twist out, those locks are like 25 or 30 bucks. That glass that's in that door can be a couple $1,000s. Be smart about it. So it can be very costly if we break that glass. Also, when we break glass, now we've got a hazard. And now you gotta take the time to clean it all the way out. So you take it, you smack it, you clean it all the way out, get that glass out of there.